the association level and finish, let's say, with a national and local level. The objective, let's say, is really for you to understand how to carry out a successful, let's say, advocacy campaign and try to bring back what you have learned today into your local or national reality. We really want to try to be as concrete as possible. So without further ado, let me introduce my wonderful panelists. And I'll start with Mathieu, representing the European Commission. A big applause. We have wonderful Katrina from the European Students' Union. A big clap. Clearly, we needed somebody from ESN. So here we have Rinke from ESN, the Netherlands. He already has a fan base. And last but not least, Raj from the European Youth Forum.
Feminists also, they are lobbyists, but they are also dreamers. And they started to reach out to many politicians in Germany mostly, and they managed to reach out to Manfred Weber, who is a member of the European Parliament, a German one. And they meet Manfred Weber, they have a coffee with him, and they explain, we think this is an amazing idea. And Manfred Weber loves the idea, and he goes back in the hemicycle of the Parliament, and during a plenary session, he stands up and said, ladies and gentlemen, we need to give a free internet pass to every young person. That's a super good way for them to connect. And everybody in the Parliament is very excited by the idea, and boom, it starts. And in 2018, the Parliament asked the European Commission to implement a 3-year pilot project. And this project comes to the youth unit where I work in DG Act, and my head of unit, we are in a unit meeting, and she said, the European Parliament has a private project called Discover You Free Interrail Pass for 18-year-old. Who wants to do it? Everybody takes the floor, but do like this, nobody wanted to do it because it's a lot of work. And I remember that she said, okay, think about it and come back to me. So I go back to my office, the meeting is over, and I think, okay, maybe there's a bit of a challenge. So I go back to see my boss and I said, I think I'd like to try it. And with another colleague, we started from very scratch in front of my computer. She's typing faster than me, so she was typing, and we were thinking together, and we write, young people needs to be 18-year-old. Young people needs to travel by rail. Young people, blah, 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 and we write 10 pages of rules, how to apply to Discover You on the youth portal, a quiz, blah, blah, so anyway. And of course, we contact Aaron Speer in the meantime, and we invite them to come to Brussels, and we meet them. And they are totally seduced by the way we have developed the action. So, and then I remember we were very stressed with my colleague Karen because everybody was laughing at us. everybody was saying it will never work. You are offering a holiday. Nobody would like to do that. This is not what young people want. So we also believe they were right, it will never work. So we opened the first application round in 2018, and we had 15,000 travel passes to distribute all over Europe. And after 1 hour, as soon as we opened the application, the guy from the IT called me and said, Mathieu, and come to the IT room. So we arrived in the IT room, and there is a big screen, big like this, with a map of the world, and full of red dots. And I said, you know what's this? He said, no. He said, this is every dot that you see, it's someone who is connecting on the page of Discovery Youth. I mean, Europe was on fire. I'm not joking, from east to west, north to south. In America, everywhere, people were connecting. So I think, oh my God, what have we done here? And so we understood very quickly that we were touching gold with Karen. We thought, there is something coming. And Ellen Speer told us, this is the new Erasmus moment. So we had to wait for the closure of the first application round, and after 2 weeks, we had more than 100,000 young people, aged 18 years old, who applied for one of those 15 Discovery programs. Immediately, it has attracted interest of the press. The day after, we had a full page in the Washington Post, in the New York Times. The EU is giving free rail tickets to young people. Then we have Le Soir, Le Monde, New Standard. There was on the news in Spain, TVE. There was that was the news. The EU is giving free tickets. So obviously, it's something I said to Miguel is that I see that in the crowd, where everybody was laughing at us. Suddenly, everybody became the father and the mother of Discovery EU. All politicians, all commissioners, and everyone. But this is fine for us because we know that we needed also the support of the politicians. Why I'm saying this to you now is because now in 2023 we celebrate 1 million applicants of Discovery EU. It's crazy. There is 1 million young people aged 18 years old who have knocked the door of the EU and said, hey, I heard you have something for me. Please tell me. And also, what is very important for us is we ask them, are you a member of a youth organization? And 40% of this million of people told us, I was never active in any type of organization. So we are reaching out, we discover you through a new public that we are not, the EU is not used to talk, because you are people, of course, involved in organizations, you are active in your local level, regional level, etc. But here we are also in contact with young people that are never in contact with people. So all that to say that after 3 years, I'm not counting the years of pandemic, the program became so popular that the Commission and the Parliament have decided that Discover EU will be completely integrated in Erasmus Plus as a mobility under the Action 1, individual mobility, and now we are in the Erasmus Plus family. And to go back to Ellen Speer and the beer that they were having in Vienna, which is really crazy that these two guys thought we will start something, and today it's one of the biggest success of Erasmus Plus, and this is what I came to tell you.
Wow, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, I will tell one last quick story that happened to me in 2018. I got a phone call after the first application round, and there was Senor Fernando, Spanish father. He called me and said, Mr. Mathieu, my name is Fernando. Hello, Mr. Fernando. He said, my son Javier won a travel pass. And I was like, yes, Fernando, like many other young people. He said, yes, but Javier is handicapped. And I was like, yes, the commission is super inclusive, don't worry, Senor Fernando, we do everything. He said, Mathieu, my son Javier is 97% cerebral handicapped. He can only move his head. And he said his dream is to go to Amsterdam. And I said, Senor Fernando, I need to go back. So I took his phone, Then I went to my boss and I was in complete panic. How am I going to manage the mobility of a kid with 97% cerebral handicap? And I said to my boss, he wants to go to Amsterdam, what are we going to do? We had the eyes of the press on us. We had everything on my shoulder, me and Karen. And we thought, my boss said, you know what, make it happen. It took me 6 weeks to organize the trip of family from Spain. I can, thank you. Okay, so it took me 6 weeks with with the contractor to organize the trip of Javier. So from Spain to Amsterdam with 3 professional carers because it needs a lot of. Is it not better like this? Yeah. Thank you for the So we organized everything and we paid for the professional carer because of course obviously Javier needs a lot of attention. And they left to Amsterdam, and we were very happy, and the world is happy, and that's it. And then we forgot Javier. And 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from the cabinet of President Jean-Claude Juncker in the Commission. I said, Mr. Fernandez, here is the cabinet of the President, and the President has received a letter from a father in Spain. Mr. Fernando. And the letter says that Fernando wants to thank the President and the Commission for what they've done for his son Javier. Because Fernando, living in Spain, never thought that the Commission could be so human and could make a dream happen for his son. And he wanted to thank us for this. And of course, you cannot imagine when we received the letter, I still sometimes think about it because it's amazing when they call you and they said, wow, you've done something so human. And we believe that if we manage to do this with Javier was such an extreme case, it means we can do it for everyone. So, well, thank you very much.
I hope this inspires us tonight in between a beer. Maybe we also launch the new Discover You ESN version. So thank you so much. Let's continue maybe this journey. We're going to stay always at the European level. We said that here with us today we have Radesh from the European Youth Forum. And you must know that the European Youth Forum is actively engaged in so many advocacy campaigns. So I'm very curious to know which one you selected for us today.
I think I can.
It's okay, have it.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Yeah. Okay. So, do you have the presentation by any chance?
Let's see. Suspense.
Yeah, a bit of. So, who wants to hear a joke in the meantime? I only have one joke. So, a ghost walks into a bar, and the bartender says, "What would you like to drink?" And the ghost says, "Can you guess what the ghost says?" Some booze. Yeah. And my same results. Hi everyone, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much, Margaret, for the inspiration. I mean, actually teared up a bit, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's super cool and it shows us once again. anywhere in Europe to know what the purpose of our campaign is. And it starts with a question. It prompts with a question: can you afford to work for free? Can any of you, or those who have done unpaid internships, afford to work for free? Spend tens of thousands of euros to work for someone else? And so that's how we started our question and our advocacy campaign. In fact, can you skip to the next slide? Maybe to the arrows. I have another joke, but I don't think the time is enough. Yeah, okay. But so basically, we started from this need of young people. We looked at statistics. We looked at the number of young people who have to undertake unpaid internships, at the number of companies and organizations who do unpaid internships, and the amount was staggering. Almost 40% of organizations that we surveyed do unpaid internships on a regular basis, and some of them exclusively. So basically, this is what we call, in a sense, modern slavery. But regarding our campaign and our advocacy efforts, when it comes to such a wide campaign, you have to have a very structured approach if you want to initiate such a campaign. First of all, you set the goal. For us, the goal was banning unpaid internships in the European Union. We wanted young people all over Europe to have access to fair employment and to be paid for the work that they do as young professionals. Then, to be able to reach that goal, we needed to develop a messaging. And it's a messaging that has to reach a wide audience, it needs to be understandable, and it needs to be, again, a soundbite. And our message was, young people cannot afford to work for free. It's not pitiful, it's not, oh, poor us. It conveys the fact that as young people and young professionals, we deserve to be paid in a fair manner. Then, I'm going to go a bit quickly through this. It's about what we demand as a change. So what is the means to which we want to reach our goal? And the change that we demanded is a European directive. Do you have any law students in the room? Okay. So for those of you who are not, who still have a life and are not studying law, basically a European directive is a document which the European Union introduces which sets out targets for the member states, but doesn't tell them how they should achieve them. It just says you have to reach this goal. However you do it, it's up to you. You have to do it in 5, 3, 7 years, or however long. Our targets was European institutions, but not only because we didn't have, unfortunately, 2 young people kind of leading this movement. We wanted to have all young people who are, who maybe were victims of this kind of modern slavery and unpaid internships, supporting us in carrying this message forward. So our targets were European institutions with the tool, which is the last point, of creating public pressure by mobilization, of working with our member organizations at the national level to mobilize a large amount of young people, petitions and ambassadors program, and so on. Can we move to the next slide, please? Do you have sound by any chance as well on the laptop? Okay, it's okay. Then yeah, the why, and I'm not going to go through the frameworks, we can make this presentation available maybe if you're interested, but basically in the top right corner there, you have the main 3 reasons that have driven our campaign and are still driving, which is that youth unemployment is on the rise and has been rising in the past 3 or 4 years, and the fact that young people are one of the highest groups, one of the groups that are at the highest risk of poverty and social exclusion. So this is not just a pity party for young people, it is actually based on statistics. It is the fact that at the end of the day, this kind of first opportunity to join the labor market, which are internships or traineeships, need to be paid in a fair manner. Amazing. How did we do this? So basically, when it comes to advocacy processes, you need to know that whatever you do, be it advocacy meetings, partnerships, technical support, technical documents, or whatever you do, whether it's organized or not, if you do not promote it, it does not exist. So if you don't make your voice heard loud and clear through social media, it's the most efficient and cheapest means of doing it, and through community building, through public pressure, basically making sure that your message comes across with the general public as well, not just the policymakers, then unfortunately your advocacy strategy or advocacy initiative will not succeed. But if you are loud, if you can go to the next slide please, if you are loud and if you follow some very clear steps in your planning and implementing of the advocacy campaign, you have a chance to make your voice heard and to influence these processes. For us, this campaign spans over more than 3 years now.
And basically, but this is quite a bit in depth on the theory of advocacy, and I'll get into it. But you need to plan, first of all, to identify what is the issue that you need to tackle. It doesn't have to be economic well-being for young people all over Europe. You can start locally, you can start regionally, however you'd like. Then you have to determine your reach. Who are you trying to reach? Is it the institutions? Is it young people? Are you trying to mobilize a wider base? And then to act, so to actually get the advocacy campaign up and running, mobilize your peers, start local events, start community building, and so on. And then the phase that we're currently in, for us, right, can you see the slide? Yeah, engaging. So right now, we're in the process of disseminating the advocacy campaign widely through Europe, through an ambassadors program, through social media. We have a continuous campaign on the Instagram of the youth forum, so check that out as well. Through local events. So it's my point in this whole entire thing is that it's a sustained effort. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, your advocacy campaign will be longer or shorter depending on your purpose. I was hoping from the bottom of my heart that we have sound as well. Do we by any chance? Okay, let me see if I can put it on here. And if not, that would be it. But if we can, it would be amazing. I can't, unfortunately. But check out the Instagram of the Youth Forum, because basically these kinds of things, these kinds of videos, where at the European level we try to reach out to as many people as possible, including surpassing language barriers, is the kind of mobilization that can make a EU-level campaign successful. And is that the last slide? Or no? Yeah. So this is some of our visual content as well from the campaign. It speaks to people. It's simple. It's straightforward. And yeah, it makes me maybe a bit angry, which is supposed to happen. And I think that would be it.
Okay,
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and join us.
Thank you so much, Dan. So now every time, let's say, we will accept an unpaid internship, we're going to think of you and, let's say, hope for a better future, hopefully. But now let's continue then this conversation, and we're going to continue always with the European level with Katrina. Katrina is representing the European Students' Union, and as ESU, let's say, they are carrying out also numerous advocacy campaigns, but maybe we could concentrate on, let's say, the last one you carried out on international housing. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you did it, what were the impacts and the outcomes? Exactly.
Maybe losing my phone, but okay. Yes, it's tough to follow those two with their grand campaigns and probably very vast experience in doing that. For her context, ESU mostly works as an advocacy organization for our national student unions, which are member organizations, and we carry their voice on a European level. Now, it is the summer of 2022, so this is fairly new, so the success of it will be judged in a few years, whether something has worked out or not. So, don't judge too harsh yet. But yeah, it's summer of 2022, and as we all know, what happened on the 24th of February, that Russia invaded Ukraine, and the effects of that we see all across Europe in the coming months, and even now, with the rise of prices, of consumer prices, some resources are becoming less available. And generally, we are seeing more and more the effects of student poverty in general, which is where we're starting to work around. We're getting word a lot more from our national members. The situation is getting scarcer. The prices are rising. The student support is not. It's getting more difficult. A lot more students are going into the situation where they need to decide between whether they continue with education or they go into the labor force, hopefully not into unpaid internship though, because they need to sustain their survival. And it's getting a lot more attention on our side, and we understand we need to act on that. And this goes into many different directions, and it goes into international student housing, it goes into accessibility of the housing and the prices of it, food prices on very general everyday expenses. It's not luxury we're talking about, it's about everyday living. And we start talking and working together with our member unions, because we can't decide this on our own. within our constituency to support us, because a lot has to happen on the ground level. This is not something, this is where into question comes the EU competences, and where the EU can decide something and where it cannot, where the national level is the one to be deciding. So this has been a very many-tiered process, where we work on the information provision, on the awareness raising within the European institutions and on the European level, talking to MEPs, talking to the commissioners, to everyone who will listen about the issue. But this is also very much a support campaign towards national actions, where national student unions are going towards their members of parliament, their governments, and trying to achieve that education and student support is included, for example, in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Still can't pronounce those. And how student grants need to be increased, how they how students cannot be excluded from different support mechanisms that are coming through young people, because in some countries at least, students are supposedly employed throughout their education, so they don't need to receive any additional support. And all this, step by step, we're still working on that, and we will keep working on that, and we try to assure that in all of the levels we are tackling, from national to European, and trying to get the support also from the global network that we are part of, to assure that this issue is not being forgotten, because the student usually is the one person who is being sidelined when different support mechanisms are coming along. Me, myself as well, have been excluded from different government support mechanisms, because as a student I did receive my 100 euros a month as a grant. Great, coming from Latvia, in case anyone is still there. And that does nothing for the student. And we'll see how this turns out. I'm hoping that on national levels you are also involved in different initiatives. But to come more to what you mentioned about international student housing, a part of this campaign was also a survey that was carried out with ESN International, brought to us by Italian Union, about the very many issues that students are facing when going on international mobility, both towards Italy and going out. But then we had a survey, and I'm sure that many of you also filled it out. More than 8,000 people did, so thanks to everyone who did. And it's about how the Erasmus grant is not enough to support the student housing when they are going abroad, and how the housing is simply not available, how it's of poor quality, how there are a lot of scams in certain countries, how university housing is just not available or is being given, especially for students coming from third countries. This is work in progress. In the coming few weeks, I'm hoping you will see the report coming out. I'm sure it will be disseminated towards you as well. But all these little parts of the campaign come together to assure that the student is able to study, and that they don't need to think about a million other things on the background, that they can focus only on the studies, and if they want to work, they can work, but it's only on their own initiative. They don't need to work. And yes, results will come, hopefully. And every student is needed to boost this on every level, both in education, institution, then on national level, and here to have a work. That's very short. Thank you.
So what can I say more than fingers crossed for the success of the campaign? We can't wait to receive the report and let's see the results. Now, last but not least, let's bring it down to ESN level, because once you will go back to your local sections or national organizations, you want to say, hey, okay, but did somebody in ESN do something similar? And Rick is here to talk us about, let's say, the advocacy efforts of ESN in the Netherlands. So Rick, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. So, who of you went abroad for an internship, an exchange, or even moved for their full-time studies abroad? Who of you? Research that. Exactly, there's a lot of you already. what is the first thing you do when you receive a confirmation that you go abroad? You're going to look for housing. So I will share in the coming minutes about the advocacy efforts. Actually, 2 of my sections carried out regarding student housing in the Netherlands, especially regarding international students. So to give a little bit more context, the housing market in the Netherlands is, just said bluntly, is terrible. Whether you're a student, whether you're a recent graduate, whether you're a starting family, there are simply not enough housing available. Due to the housing market was liberalized, our government thought it was a good idea to give it to the free market and let the market regulate. Which resulted that private landlords bought a lot of housing, investment companies bought a lot of houses, which, well, on the one hand, drove up the prices for the international students, as well as the limited, got really scarce for the students to actually get housing. And international students are particularly even more vulnerable on the Dutch housing market because, unfortunately, there is a stigma in the Netherlands, and I think Rajesh, my fellow panelist, experienced it as well since he studies in Tilburg, that we have a Dutch-only or a non-internationals culture on Facebook groups, on all the housing platforms, which is that's terrible and actually discriminatory. That is actually one of my sections here in Groningen. Carried out an internationals welcome campaign, showcasing actually how fun it is to live with an international, that you don't have to be afraid that you are living with someone that comes from abroad, or that you don't have to be scared to speak English, for example, because it's actually really fun to get some cultures, to meet new people, and to enrich your own, enrich society, your own life through international students, as we always say in ESN as our mission. So together with the local student union and the municipality of Groningen, they said it was a very nice video campaign to really showcase the benefits of living with an international student. And then on the other hand, like I said, we have a problem that there are simply not enough houses available. And then here goes my other section. Here's a Wageningen in the more nice purple shirts. Since universities know who goes out on mobility and who comes in on mobility, so they have the names, they know who's coming, they have contacts with the other sending and hosting universities, so they thought, let's set up a room swap. So they connect through the international relations offices, they are contacting, okay, who are coming this semester to Wageningen? So they receive some numbers, some information, and who are going out. Let's connect them, because the incoming students, they need a house in Wageningen. And also the outgoing, they need a room in Milan, in Norway, wherever they go. And they thought, let's set up a forum and let's connect the students. So you already get your first social contacts, and you don't have to stress out anymore that you are looking for a room desperately, or that you simply have to cancel your exchange because you cannot find an accommodation. So they're very clever to set up, to actually support the international relations office, and to better support the finding an accommodation for international students. And the data what I heard from them, so they had like 128 responses and connections, 70 for the first semester and more or less 60 in the second semester. I think that's a very good result as a first year campaign, and I highly encourage you to also talk with your international relations. So what can we as ESN do? We have such a big and broad, powerful network. We know people from all over the network, especially now after EGM. We get to know so many people from the different delegations. This is a unique opportunity for each and every one of you to help your incoming international students, but also to help your outgoing international students, because they will also benefit from your support. So this is basically 2 of my examples that I want to share, and I hope that I can inspire you to help your incoming and outgoing international students. So thank you very much.
And it's great that you talked about inspiring, because the objective of today's session was to give you practical tips on how to implement an advocacy campaign, but also get inspired from all of these successful stories. And maybe I go back to my panelists. you have in front of you a room of 50 plus young people who really can make a change as soon as they go out of the door. What would you tell them with one word, one sentence to inspire them? Can you think about it? Maybe I'll start with you, Matthew.
I don't know if it's one word, but anything you will do, it's hard work. I'm telling you, nothing comes easily. The stories that I've told you for Discover You, it's hours of work, it's hours of doubt, we really believe it will not work. So again, just hard work. Keep that in mind. There will be always moments where you will. Now I'm old enough to go back a bit in my life, and I'm old enough to go back a little bit in my life to realize what I've done. I'm not so old, but yes, it's the result of really a lot of hours spent. And I think what is very important, not only with the brain, guys, but work, anything that you do also with your heart, be at the place of the people when you do something, think of them. And I think the success of Discover You is that the team that worked on it think a lot with this. How can we make this happen for an 18-year-old in Europe? How could we make this adventure for them something crazy and it worked? So,
Thank you, Matthew. And let's continue with Rajesh. One word, one sentence to really inspire the audience.
I was counting the words and I kind of lost count.
yeah, I speak too much.
No, so, I really follow up on what you said, and I would say, yeah, it's really, I want to say really fucking hard, but it's really possible. Like if you push through and you have a plan and you know what you're going towards and you don't work alone, it really is possible. So whatever you're thinking of, be it housing, be it, I don't know, allowances or student grants for Erasmus students, if you know and if you do your stakeholder mapping well, you know who to talk to and you don't do it alone, it really is possible. You might have to try 2 or 3 or 4 times, and you might not be there to try it anymore, might not be a student anymore. But make sure you have a legacy and that it goes on, and eventually you will succeed. It really is possible.
Thank you, Rajesh. To continue, Katerina, how can we inspire our audience?
Because believe in yourself, believe in the cause that you are having, and have allies that believe in your cause as well. And from what I have been seeing, being in many different levels of student representation, the higher the level, the more time and more difficult it can be to lead an advocacy campaign or to see a change. But you also have to know and believe that every little step that you take towards your end goal is the step in the right direction, even if you're not going to be around in the organization, in the student movement, or in your university to see that effect. You have to believe that everything you've done will be towards the greater good, and someday someone will finish the work, but you will also have been a part of that.
Thank you. And Rick.
I would say don't underestimate your power and the impact you make on someone's experience abroad. I think you have so much knowledge, so much mechanisms and relations in place that even a simple thing you do or a simple event you organize or a campaign you launch might have a tremendous impact on someone's experience in your city. So don't think, oh, it's a simple thing, so it probably has no effort or it doesn't make sense. It will have an impact and a positive impact on an international student in your city. So believe in yourself, what Kathleen also says. And then if you have one student or 1,000 students, in the end it doesn't really matter.
And now it's up to you. You get up, you get out of that door, and you start making a change. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was super amazing. And since we talked about, let's say, we need